Okay, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Tom Crumpler. I'm a professor of elementary education and literacy at Illinois State University. And today I'm going to be talking about a research project that I've been working on that was funded by University Research Grant Fellowship. The title of the project is Collaborative Development of Clinical Practices in Literacy, Strengthening Learning and Teacher Education with Laboratory School Partners. I was PI on this project, and I also had a co-PI, Lisa Kendall, who is at Metcalf Elementary School. The research team was made up of Brittany Minton, Crystal Patterson, Amy Schumacher, and Laurel Schumacher, Metcalf Elementary teachers, as well as Lisa Wills, Darcy Sibber, and Aaron Quast, who are all ISU instructors. For those of you who don't know about the laboratory schools, it basically has a four-part mission as part of the larger university to act as a model for educational methods and theory in support of the preparation of future educators, to conduct educational research, to offer quality educational programs for children, and disseminate information to others in the educational profession. Our project aligns with the goal to act as a model for educational methods and theory in support of preparation of future teachers. To give you a sense of the timeline, in the fall of 2016, Lisa Kendall came to me to talk about enhancing TCH 209 clinical experiences, both for the teachers who are in the Metcalf classrooms and for the ISU teacher interns. The TCH 209 is the second course in the literacy sequence. And what's key to this course is that the teacher interns spend the bulk of the semester tutoring students in an elementary classroom. And so Lisa came to me with a list of practices that the Metcalf teachers believe should be part of a good clinical experience. I was intrigued to have teachers come to me in that initiating some changes. And so in the spring of 2017, we just did a pilot project where we tried a few things out, met as a group, and then talked about how it went. And it actually went really well. And so in the summer of 2017, we designed our formal research project, got IRB approval, and then began data collection in the fall of 2017. We just finished collecting data this spring. Actually, we ended up extending it into the spring 2018 semester because we decided as a group that a year of data would be more interesting than just a semester. We had an action research project that was doing inquiry in our own classrooms. You can see the research questions there. We were particularly interested in processes of collaboration between elementary teachers and ISU university faculty. We wondered how, in a research project, those roles might evolve, or whether they would evolve. We also were really interested in how the members of the group and how the students involved in the project define collaboration. And then third, we wanted to, if we could, identify some effective practices that could be listed as really important clinical experiences for the teacher interns across grades 1 through 4. The theoretical framework, John Dewey, of course, envisioned laboratory schools in 1904 as places where inquiry was built into the foundations of teaching and learning. Extending that conception was Schulman and Wilson, who talked about teachers as professionals who brought knowledge and learning into classrooms and cultivated a spirit of inquiry as a feature of that vocation. So teachers are reciprocal with researchers. They bring ideas, they bring research thinking into that mix as well. Thomas Metcalf's school mission is obviously situated in the tradition of John Dewey and his philosophy. And because we were really interested in the voices of teachers and how those teachers' stories could be narrated so that those voices remain, and there were multiple perspectives on the project, we drew upon the work of Jerome Bruner and his thinking about narrative. A little bit about participants in data collection. We had ISU teacher interns. We had 5 classrooms involved in this project, and there were 20 students roughly in each classroom over 2 semesters. About 100 teacher interns were invited into the project. We had 4 ISU instructors, myself included, as listed earlier on the title page. And there were 5 elementary teachers, grades 1 through 4. We collected quite a bit of data. We had pre and post surveys both semesters. Those surveys were given to the teacher interns as well as the research team members. And the goal of those surveys was to try to get at how each of us was defining collaboration. So the survey was given in the beginning of the fall semester, 2017, at the end of the fall semester, to see if the work in the classrooms and the interactions together changed our sense of collaboration. We did the same thing in the spring of 2018. We also had audio recordings of 4 team meetings in the fall of 2017. And these were really important because those meetings lasted about an hour. And at those meetings, it was really a space and time for all of us as a research team to come together, talk about what was working, what wasn't working, our frustrations, things that we thought were successes. And those recordings became a really useful source of data as well. During the entire year, each time the classroom teacher and the Metcalf each time the Metcalf classroom teacher and the ISU instructor was involved in teaching 209 in the Metcalf classroom, we all took observations of each tutoring session. And those observations focused on what the interns were doing, how the teacher, the Metcalf teacher and the ISU instructor were working together, and tried to capture just the nuts and bolts of what was happening during that time. We also had exit interviews with all the team members. I interviewed the Metcalf teachers, and Lisa interviewed the ISU instructors. And the purpose of those interviews was to try to get a sense of what the duration, or what happened during the duration of the project for each of the research team members. We talked about how people work together, what changes and shifts they had made at the end of fall 2017 that we were all hoping to implement in the spring of 2018. Those interviews were transcribed, and they also have become a very important source of data. We are still doing some data analysis, but to kind of give you a sense of how that's going, we met as a group to do. Well, let me back up a little bit. Each of us analyzed data separately. We started with our own field notes because we thought they would be the most accessible. And then we brought our preliminary analyses into the research meetings and talked about what we were seeing during the semester's project, during the project course of the progress of the project. In the spring of 2018, we began more intensive data analysis. We had some preliminary codes, and now we're in the process of going back into the data, refining those codes and collapsing them, and trying to fit them into more broader, theoretically sensitive codes and categories. Basic qualitative analysis. We also, each of us has written preliminary narrative accounts of what our own perspective on the project, trying to get at some of that narrative thinking about what was going on, and really using those narratives as another source of data. We've also shared those at our last research team meeting as well. I want to talk just a little bit about some successes from our story, and I'm using story very purposefully because since we're trying to situate this as a very much narrative research, the notion of story, who the characters are, that kind of thing becomes important. So our successes were definitely increased collaboration on a consistent level. We found that in all 5 classrooms, the ISU instructors and the Metcalf teachers increased their collaboration in the second semester, in the spring 2018 semester. Although I would be less than honest to say that there certainly weren't potholes and barriers along the way. We found that we were able to fulfill the mission of the lab school that we described earlier. Also, we're hoping that this this ultimately can serve as a model for other schools. It's been great for allowing Metcalf teachers and the ISU instructors to reflect on our own practices and sharing those ideas. And we hope to share them with the College of Education and ISU interns. We felt like we were aligned our philosophies, goals, framing of literacy, and vision to create more authentic, student-centered environment. And we felt like as over the course of the semesters, we were able to support the ISU interns and Metcalf students learning in progress. We certainly had some challenges. As with any kind of collaborative work, time was huge. There never seems to be enough of it. And we found that we really had to, as a group, to stay committed to attend those meetings and to set aside time, to do the work of the research. And that sometimes meant working outside of the school day, communicating by email and or some other electronic medium, really prioritizing communication and sharing work. Sometimes the partnerships between the ISU and the Metcalf, the ISU faculty member and the Metcalf teacher didn't go as smoothly as we had hoped. And so we had to take a look at what was going on, talk about that and decide, could we continue to work together? What sort of changes might we need to make? And that feedback was really beneficial, but it was challenging in the sense that I think in educational research, we're so good at telling our success stories and how things went smoothly and well. But those of us who do research know that there's also often some backstory and some compromising and some working things out. And certainly that was part of this project as well. I'd like to share some preliminary implications that we think merit future research. One of the things that we've learned is collaboration to improve clinical practices is time intensive, requires careful design, and a willingness to live with ambiguity. I think a lot of times in American schools, we want a quick fix. We want things that work and we want to get them done right away. But we learned as a research team that collaboration is different than that. It is time intensive, and we have to sometimes be comfortable living with the fact that we don't always have the answers, and it takes time to work those answers out. That was very important for us. A second implication that's really important from this project is that trust is relational and it must be built, and it resides in the center of any successful research project. All of these folks involved in this project were people I knew, some for a long time, some who had been former students of mine, yet that trust had to be built, and it took much longer than we expected. It's easy to begin a project and say, we can work together, we can get this done, but it took a while to build that trust, and that was really important, a part of the project. We believe that shifting university faculty and classroom teachers away from traditional roles towards a co-inquiry model is potentially transformative. It positions teachers as makers of knowledge rather than just passive receivers, and we're very excited about this and hope to continue to learn more about that transformation. We believe that our collaborative action research project could be an emerging model that could inform both other laboratory schools and how universities design clinical experiences with their teacher interns. We did identify some practices that we think are really critical for effective clinical, that are really critical for effective clinical practice, and we're going to continue to try to implement and refine these in the context of the laboratory school. One of the things that we learn is maybe not a big deal, but it's really important for the Metcalf teacher and the 209 instructor to meet ahead of time to discuss the syllabus, design the structure of the clinical, and provide time to determine where the teacher can provide support, guidance, and practical experience. I think in an older model, the ISU faculty would come into the classroom, kind of run the clinical, and the teacher would be ancillary, just as a support person. It really didn't have a central role in conceptualizing the clinical practice. We think that needs to change, and this project helped us think about that. Another important thing we think that's effective is during those first 2 weeks, the ISU teacher interns should be able to take a look at an inventory of skills that will be provided throughout the semester, explicitly taught and modeled by both the instructor and the Metcalf teacher, so they know what to expect. We also wanted to begin with observations. All of us this semester had our teacher interns spend the first 2 weeks just observing in the classroom. We started right away with that observation because we wanted them to get the sense of the lay of the land, how the classroom was set up. But we also wanted them to see what a good teacher does with her second graders or her first graders, how she manages students, how she transitions them from small group to large group instruction. What does she do if a student is off task? And that was really important because it gave the students a sense of the context. And rather than bring them in right away and get them tutoring immediately, this really provided a great experience for them to see what they were getting into. Debriefing right after the clinical experience is really important. At least once a week, we want to build that into clinical experiences so that Metcalf teachers and the 209 instructors are accessible, because we know as educators that if feedback's not fairly immediate and detailed, it tends to lose its value. We tried to, and we're, I think, fairly successful at sharing lesson plans with Metcalf teachers that the ISU interns had developed, and asking both the Metcalf teachers and the ISU instructors to provide feedback on those interns, so on those lesson plans, so that the students could get, again, more than one perspective and could really see that the teacher and the ISU instructor were really partners in this endeavor. We built group work as into the clinical practice, and recognizing that this may look different at each grade level, but teaching one-on-one is incredibly valuable. The students learn to plan instruction, work with one student, but a small group work, most of us who've been classroom teachers know is the heart of good instruction. So we wanted our students, our teacher interns, to have that too. During the tutoring sessions, rather than the Metcalf teacher sit in her office or go off and do other things, both the teacher and the ISU instructor were available to answer questions, to have conferences, to actually monitor some of the instruction that's going on with the elementary students, and really allow the teacher interns to see that the Metcalf teacher is right in there with the ISU instructor, again, collaborating on that work. Some steps that we are thinking about right now: we are planning to finish our data analysis in the summer of 2018. We are committed to continuing to revise what we see as a working document of effective clinical practices. And we hope that document will remain organic, and as we learn more and add to it, and take away things that don't seem to work as well as we hoped. We are thinking about submitting several conference proposals. We've talked about, there's a National Laboratory School Conference that we are investigating. We missed the deadline this year, but we're hoping to try to put something together next year. And also submit to a literacy conference, since this is a research project focused on literacy. And what we're hoping is that we can pull together at least, if not all of the team of researchers, at least a portion of it. And so that it's not just me as the faculty member talking for the teachers and talking for the other team members, but us as a panel of experts really sharing our experiences and the work we did in this project together. And we are also committed to beginning to develop a manuscript to submit. We're hoping to, the journal that we've identified right now is Teaching and Teacher Education. It's an international journal that publishes really cutting edge work on how teacher education is shifting and the role of teachers in that process. And so we feel like this would be a good fit for us. Here are some references that obviously undermine the project. And finally, I want to thank you very much for the research committee for supporting this grant. And we're going to continue to work on this project and feel like it is really valuable work for us. Thank you very much.